something pops up that you would not want answered, there will be a designated Q&A at the end, though, where we will answer all the questions, and we will turn your microphones and your cameras on so you can pop questions in the chat, or you can hold on to them and you can ask them at the end of the session, whichever way you feel like you want to do it. Again, if you haven't already done so, make sure to say hi, let us know where you're joining us from. We're so excited to have so many of you from across the state with us today. So yeah, let us know and we'll keep track of where everyone's coming from. You can see on the screen we've got some amazing people who are joining us today. Firstly, my name is Bree Forbes and I will be hosting, but most importantly, we have two incredible presenters joining us today. Firstly, we have one of the best specialists in the business, Callum Hazel, who's here to talk to you all things GSPO. And secondly, for those who have been lucky enough to have not joined us in the past, or this is your first webinar with us before, we also have Jeff Adams, who is a statewide swimming coordinator for the Department of Education, who is here to talk to us about the PAL guidelines. So I am going to make myself sit in the background, and I'm also going to take on board everything that they are going to share and all of their amazing knowledge. And I will hand over straight into Callum, who is going to talk all things GSPO. All yours, Cal.
Yeah, thanks, Bree. Thanks, Bree, for the introduction. As Bree mentioned, hopefully this is coming up on the screen and everyone can see. Yeah, my name's Callum. I'm one of the specialists here at Lifesaving Victoria, and today I'm going to do this presentation is designed to provide you with the most up-to-date standards, safety expectations, and current best practices for your school swimming and water safety programs. Bree, I'm not sure if that slide's coming up. Oh, there we go. Sorry, guys, I'm having a bit of presentation issues. Hopefully that's now working. Sorry about that. Yeah, so as I was saying, the aim is a clear understanding of how the GSPO and PAL guidelines apply directly to your swimming programs with the goal to ensure consistency, quality, and compliance. What I'll be looking at is the structural swimming program, so programs conducted for the purpose of teaching swimming and water safety skills, survival techniques, and rescue and emergency procedures. Then we'll also be looking at recreational swimming, so structured and or unstructured activities in water, including fun days, end-of-year activities, or water and adventure parks, swimming carnivals, inter-school swimming carnivals, and any other competitions. What I won't be covering is supervision around coastal enclosed. So this is only for the schools who have joined us, that I won't be looking into the supervision requirements around the coastal enclosed inland swift waterways, including water-based activities such as recreational swimming, surfing, and canoeing and boating in those particular environments. So, what does the GSPO mean? It's a guidelines for safe pool operations, which is a series of documents that help owners and operators manage their aquatic facilities. This is a subscription-based service which is managed by Royal Lifesaving Society Australia. If you do not have access to the GSPO, I strongly encourage you to either reach out to, if you have an operations team, to reach out to them, or you can reach out to us and we can point you in the right direction to get yourself a subscription. The GSPO is actually developed by a committee who are from various different organisations that come together and they talk all things pools. So it's not just one person that's just come up with this. It's actually a collective of people from industry that guide this document, and they have regular meetings. So if you want to know who's on that committee, you can actually go onto Royal's website and they have a list of who are the representatives on that committee. So in the GSPO, there are a series of sections. So that dives down into, child safety, training and qualification specifics, aquatic supervision, signage within your facilities, emergency planning, incident management, risk management, safety equipment, swimming pool designs, and then what we're going to focus on today, which is the swimming and water safety and programs. But this is a one-stop shop for everything you need to know about your aquatic facilities. It's a really useful tool. I'm in it every day, and I strongly encourage everyone to, just to go in there, refresh their mind on some key items from this. So diving a little bit into the Victorian Public Pool Register, which is also a very valuable piece of resource. So just to get a context of what is a swimming pool, swimming pools are classified as any structure containing water to a depth of greater than 300 millimeters. And it is used primarily for swimming, wading, paddling, or similar, including bathing, wading, or spa pool. So that's a swimming pool. Pretty straightforward. LSV, under the Safer Pools Code of Practice, have a register. So all public learn to swim and university school pools within Victoria need to be registered through this register. If you are a swim school who has joined or a pool that has joined today and is not sure if they are registered, please reach out to us and so we can get you on our register. All schools who are here today are strongly encouraged to use this register to see what facilities have undergone a pool safety assessment, which they can see it's publicly facing. It gets updated all the time. And you can see if the school has actually gone, if that facility, has done a pool safety assessment. And if they have done a pool safety assessment, they receive a endorsement, which could be a bronze, silver, or gold endorsement. So everyone can log in, even the public can go and see which facilities have done it. So if you haven't not done one or don't know what I am talking about, again, please reach out to us, which we can discuss at the end of this webinar about getting a pool safety assessment done or talk more about how the endorsements work. Next, I just want to touch on supervision for recreational swimming. So when it comes to supervision and swimming carnivals or free play sessions, which I know most facilities do host, it is important that schools who are visiting inform the facilities and estimate how many students they will be expecting to attend the carnivals, as the facilities will need to roster the staff to cover all persons, including people in and out of the water. So when schools attend your facilities, we want to make sure that we've got enough staff to manage if an emergency occurs. So even if they're only going to have 8 people swimming in the pool at one time, we actually got to cater for everyone that's going to be inside the facility at one time. In saying that as well, schools are still to ensure they meet their required ratio per the guidelines, and facility staff cannot be included as part of that ratio. They have their own responsibilities for everyone in the facility, including teachers and parents who may attend the carnival or free play. So even though we're going to have some facilities going to have lifeguards, especially those outdoor pools, it's still the schools need to have that, make sure they're staying in their ratio, and can't include the current staff at the facility. So we can't include the lifeguards. They've got their own responsibilities to do. Alrighty. Now I just want to touch base on qualifications for swimming and water safety teachers. I know that everyone will probably right across it, but I just want to re-clarify and just touch on it a little bit, because there is some differences that we do need to see from a PAL and from the GSPO requirement. So for swimming and water safety teachers, both ones under the GSPO required under the PAL, we always encourage to go to the highest standard for requirements to ensure best delivered to students. You may have noticed, I don't know if it's coming up, there's 2 parts that are highlighted on the screen. And this is around the requirements to hold first aid certificates. So in the GSPO, it doesn't specifically say that the teacher needs to have a first aid certificate. I know most facilities will still have it, which is going to the highest standard, which I was saying before. And in the PAL guideline, it is a requirement that they do have a first aid certificate. So what we're wanting is trying to align that and have everyone go to the highest standard and the best practice, which is have first aid certificate as well. So that's a little bit of discrepancy, but I know that most facilities in this case will always have that first aid as well. Alrighty, for the next couple of slides, I'm going to look at 3 different types of situations that could occur in your school or for your school or for the facility. First, I would like to look at typically your normal aquatic facilities, so your, Queen's Parks, Keilor, Geelong facilities. So on here, aquatic facilities staff must hold the relevant teachers in swimming and water safety qualifications and licenses. Swim teachers must hold the first aid certificate aligning with the PAL requirements, and pool lifeguards to adhere to the facility pool supervision plan. So this is if the school's attending your facility, this is what the aquatic facility should have in terms of running a swimming and water safety program that they're hiring out. From a school's perspective, the school must provide a qualified first aider, ensure appropriate ratio is maintained, supervise students before, during, and after activities, and a complete emergency management and supervision plan prior to attending. So that's the responsibility of the school outside of what the aquatic facility is already doing. So for scenario 2, so this is a learn to swim specific facility. So a learn to swim facility where they only have swim teachers and may not have a designated pool lifeguard. So that's I'm saying someone that's in a pool lifeguard uniform. But they most likely will have a qualified person within the facility that will have a pool lifeguard qual, so they can perform those spinal and advanced rescue skills. So again, learn to swim staff must hold the relevant teaching qualification and license, and swim teachers to hold the first aid certificate to align with the PAL. It is recommended, of course, is to have pool lifeguards present or a qualified person on site that's going to that high standard. And same as before, schools must provide a qualified first aider, ensure appropriate ratios are maintained, supervise before, after, during, and complete their emergency management and supervision plans prior to attending the facility. And the third situation that may occur is a regional or a pool located within a school. So these pools are located within a school grounds or in a regional area where there are no additional staff present, and where school is required to provide their own instructors for the program. So this is all solely based that the school's just given the keys to the pool essentially. So in this circumstance, school staff must complete a risk assessment to determine if this location is actually appropriate for the program or if they should seek out an alternative venue. Hold the relevant swim teacher qualification and license. Hold a current first aid and CPR. Complete emergency management supervision plans and maintain the recommended supervision ratios as per the guidelines, the PAL guidelines. The next part of this, I actually just want to touch on swimming and diving as part of the GSPO, so the teaching of safe water entries and divings. When teaching diving within your programs, teachers need to consider factors including depth of water, height of entry prior to commencement of these teaching of any diving entries. So the GSPO states any teaching or crouching and standing dives, the ultimate depth will be 2 meters, sorry. So that's what we would like to see, but the minimum depth is 1.5 meters. So if you've got a pool that is less than that, the GSPO says it's don't instruct at that instruct diving at that level. Modify the program when necessary. But if you want to find the deeper, assess it, make sure you're in the right depth before conducting that activity. And additionally, instructors should maintain currency by completing in-service and ongoing professional development, especially around diving. So making sure that you're keeping up to what today's teaching standards are around diving. And that goes for any other swimming lesson as well. But especially around diving, we just want to make sure that trained and qualified and up-to-date staff are instructing those type of activities. That's for the benefit of the instructor and for the student, so we don't have any incidents or misdiving into the pools. On just the final note for me, some important resources that are out there, which I strongly encourage people to familiarize themselves with, especially if you're solely responsible for the management of the pool or just for your own sake as well. There's the Public Health and Wellbeing Act 2008, which is all about your water quality, which is very important to make sure that you guys are across that. And from our side, strongly encourage reading the Safe Public Pools Code of Practice. It has a whole lot of information, has all what qualifications are required, additional links, all about the pool safety assessments, as well as we got some links to the GSPO. Hopefully I haven't gone too far over or gone over your head. I'm happy to take questions at the end of this. Otherwise, I'm going to hand over to Jeff now.
Thanks, Callum. Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm coming to you from Jar Jar Wurrung country today, and I noticed a few on the call that are local, Red Castlemaine, Bendigo. That's wonderful. So, yeah, thanks, Callum. It's great to have a look at the GSPO, and what we're going to do now is have a look at how the Policy and Advisory Library relevant documents from the Education Department match up with the GSPO and help you as either facility folks or teachers, if you're watching this as well, how you can communicate together. And it's like Alex said in the chat just recently, it's really important that when you are running or planning school swimming, that there's open two-way communication between the school and the facility to make sure everyone's on board with what's going on. So hopefully this will help some of the stuff that Callum's provided, and then hopefully I can sort of join the dots for the second part of it. So a quick run through of swimming in schools, just in case you've missed it or you're trying to work out where it all fits in. So the Swimming in Schools program from the department is the department provides funding that contributes towards the delivery of quality swimming and water safety education in Victorian government primary, specialist English language schools, and we also provide funding to Catholic primary schools as well. So to do things, so the students have an opportunity to do things like learn how to swim and develop lifelong skills in water safety to reduce their risk of drowning and injury. So as you're probably aware, the swimming and water safety is embedded into the curriculum, and we're moving this year towards next year being solely on the Victorian curriculum version 2.0, which has a much stronger focus on aquatics and water safety. So I don't encourage you necessarily to read through the entire curriculum, but to know that there's lots more aquatics included, and interestingly too in sort of lower secondary as well. So in the year 7 to year 10 area, there's a bit more aquatics mentioned there as well. What we aim for, however, is for students in year 6, by the time they reach year 6, that they've demonstrated the requirements of the Victorian Water Safety Certificate. So we're aware this is very different. Like a lot of you would have your own certificate program in place, but this is one for you to work with the schools on, so that each student, even if they sort of move across schools and so forth, get a sort of standardized assessment of where they're at. And it's very basic kind of stuff. If they can swim 50 meters, answer some safety-based questions, and perform some simple rescue and survival bits and pieces. So the funding provides, as I said, it's a contribution towards funding for schools, but it doesn't pay for the whole lot. And we'll have a look at in a minute, the next slide, about just how much that is. Funding can be used by the schools for paying for the instruction, entry into the pool and transport, and families can also be asked for a voluntary contribution to payment, but they're not allowed, if the swimming is delivered as part of compulsory curriculum, they're not allowed to ask for funding, because any compulsory curriculum in the Victorian education system has to be delivered for free to government students. So the funding that is provided to each school is, for metro government schools, it's $40 per student per year, which isn't much, particularly once you get in a bus. It costs quite a bit these days. Specialist schools and English language schools are a lot higher. They often have different needs to make it work. And then regional schools are $48 per student per year, noting that they might have to travel further, or it might be a bit trickier for them. If it's a tiny school, if it's a small school and the total per student contribution is going to be less than $2,000, it's automatically rounded up to a minimum of $2,000 per school. And as I said, the parents may be requested to provide a voluntary contribution if they need to. And by the way, we're using PowerPoint Live today, so all the links are live, so you can hover over the screen and click on them if you want to open them up. So this is another thing I'll just put in quickly too. The Affordable School Uniforms program is rolled out across all government schools, and it's run through each school. So they provide school uniforms and other bits and pieces that disadvantaged students may require. And swimwear is one of those things that's available through there. So goggles, bathers, modesty swimwear as well. So if you are working with a school and they're sort of saying, oh, we don't have enough bathers, there are students without bathers, they can't come, then you could point them in the direction of State Schools Relief and the Affordable School Uniform Program. And it's run through principals and leading teachers, and they can help access that through State Schools Relief. And it's a fantastic program. So the schools are provided the funding, and they have a choice of what program, how they want to run their swimming and water safety. So it might be the sort of typical 5 to 10 day or term long swimming in schools in a pool kind of situation, or something different. Today, I'm just going to be talking about the pools as highlighted by Callum earlier and his description of a pool. So let's sort of dive in to the different documents that are relevant in the Policy and Advisory Library. So the Policy and Advisory Library is the website that has all the Department of Education policy and guideline documents to help schools run their curriculum and deliver their curriculum. So again, these links are live. So there are a few that are relevant to swimming in schools. So the first one is just a basic generic overview of swimming and water safety education. And then we dive down into the swimming and water-based activities guidelines, and they're the ones that we're going to be looking for in detail today, just pulling out some bits and pieces. But they're all publicly available, all very easy to, well, I'm not going to say easy to access because it can be a bit of a minefield. So yeah, once you're there, if you start at the excursions policy, which is probably the best place to start, which we'll have a look at now, then all the swimming stuff sort of based off the excursions policy. So if you go to the PAL guidelines, search for excursions, and then dive in that way, or some of these more direct links. So the excursion policy is the fourth document, or the third document really, that we should look for, because there's actually some specific stuff in there that needs to be looked at. In particular, approvals from the principal, who's the main person who approves any excursion outside the school. the student medical information, which is required and then passed on to facilities where relevant, and the emergency management plan. And I know there are a few questions in the chat about that. So the schools have to do their own emergency management plan for the excursion, and then they will work with the facility to understand the facility's emergency management plan. So the schools one is really about where are the local medical facilities, the police, what's our safety plan for getting to and from the facility, those kind of things. And hopefully the teachers should inquire with the facility to understand any relevant emergency procedures they need to sort of include or refer to in their plan. So the key document in all of this is the adventure activity guidelines, and the guidelines provide detailed guidance for schools when preparing their swimming excursion. And so, as I said, this is what we're going to look at in detail over the next few slides. The other really helpful document, and it's one that you might like as a facility too, you might like to have the link to in your back pocket. If a school rings and they want to plan their swimming with you, you could say, look, have you seen this? This is the sort of overarching guiding document that helps you work through what things you need to prepare in terms of swimming. And part B in that document actually has specific swimming and water safety activity checklists, and then the principal signs off on this once it's all done and dusted. So back on the adventure or the activity guidelines for swimming. So these really are the equivalent of the GSPO for schools. And so they really need to, if you're a facility, then you read them in conjunction with each other. And as Callum said, if in doubt, use the higher based requirement if you're not sure which one you should go by. But on the whole, the GSPO and the guidelines are pretty well matched. There might be a couple of specific instances where you go, oh, hang on a minute. But on the whole, they sort of bounce well off each other. So one of the key questions we often get asked from facilities is, do schools need to provide medical information and any other things about the student when they come? And the answer is yes. And so if they're this is okay, this is fine under privacy legislation, because privacy legislation states that any details that are collected for a particular purpose can be used for that purpose to get the message across. So if the medical information is being collected for the swimming program, then it can be shared with anyone that needs it for the safety of that student in the swimming program. So there's no issue with privacy on that one, and it's stated in the guidelines twice, in fact, that this can be done, and you should be sharing this specifically. So that's something to keep in mind. We talked a little bit, Callum talked a little bit about staffing roles and supervision. I thought I'd just sort of come at it from the department's perspective as well, which is just the same, but sometimes it's good to hear in a different way. So the schools always have to have a teacher in charge, which is a VIT registered teacher. And so that person will always be the person in charge. And then they might have some other staff or volunteer parents with them. And it's okay to have volunteer parents come and be part of the supervisory team. And then the instructor in this instance would be the swim teacher. So for the purposes of this document, the school swimming document, schools refer to school teachers as teachers and swim school teachers as instructors, just to have an easier delineation between the two. So let's move on to this. This is the next bit in the document that is relevant to point out that all instructors need to know the medical histories of students in the program, particularly with a few different conditions that are increased importance for swimming. And we'll come back to supervision in just a minute, but beginner swimmers need to be identifiable to all supervisory staff. So this is probably more relevant to carnivals and recreational swimming, because if they're having swimming lessons, they're going to be supervised very tightly by the swimming instructor. But in terms of larger programs, it's a bit more important to understand the different levels of swimming. If in doubt, at any point, treat the student as a beginner swimmer until they can be assessed and identified as otherwise. So it's always best to just start at the beginning, assume beginner, and then go from there. So as Callum was saying, lifeguards are not supervisors. They have their own job to do. They're keeping us safe in other ways. They do not supervise students around or in the pool. Supervisors need to know that they're supervising. So as Callum said, the school teachers still need to be supervising at all times. The basic premise is that if they're in the water having a lesson, then the swim instructor or teacher is the one supervising them, but the school teacher still needs to have supervision of everyone, because if they get out of the pool and go to the bathroom or anything else, then the swim teacher relinquishes supervisory control there, and the school teacher needs to be supervising in that instance. So ratios, these are exactly the same as in the GSPO, and recreational swimming is the same as beginners at 1 to 10. So most facilities or schools, certainly schools when planning these, would go with the 1 to 10 ratio, and that's what you would see come in with the schools and their supervisors. So look, that's me, really quick rundown from me, but the good news is we've got lots of time for questions. But you can always get in touch through the email or phone number there. So feel free to do that if you think it's more of a question for me in terms of schools, and obviously LSV are there to help too. So, and if it's anything about the policies specifically, that's held by our friends at the School Operations and Governance Unit, which is another team in the department, and we work very closely with them in terms of these guidelines. So they're always happy to have questions posted to them as well. So yeah, thanks Bree, thanks Callum.
Thanks Jeff, thanks Callum. Okay, now is the time. I believe I have allowed your microphones and cameras to be turned back on if you choose to pop in with a question. If not, I'm going to move through the chat. I can see that a few questions have come in, particularly early on around the qualifications. So Cal, I'm going to defer straight back to you firstly to cover this question around the first aid CPR element. So checking swim teachers must have first aid certificate and not just CPR. Is that the case? Can you give us a clear answer on what it all means?
So in the GSPO, it says you must have at least a CPR, but obviously with the PAL guidelines, we have first aid. We always aim for the highest standard, so getting that first aid certificate is probably the best way to go. But you know, if you are just a learn to swim operator, your person who is the supervisor of the deck supervisor essentially needs to have that first aid certificate anyway. So you might as well look at having everyone being first aid trained. But yeah, if you're just looking at GSPO's perspective, it's just saying CPR, but obviously we want you to have the highest standard to get the first aid anyway as well.
And is that just for like swimming programs as a whole, or is this just school-based programs?
For swimming program overall. So in the GSPO, there is a training section that breaks down each role. So if you don't have a subscription, please go and get the subscription, because that will lay it out. Plus, it's also in the Safe Pools Code of Practice as well, where you can see a role title and what type of qualification you do require to manage and operate and run swimming and water safety programs.
Perfect, thank you. I can see, I think Alec has been answering these questions, but do schools need to provide their risk assessment and management plan? I know, Jeff, you also covered this off, but do schools need to actually give it to facilities?
No, there's nothing there that states they need to. I mean, it's probably good. Yeah, like as Alex said, there might be information there that they don't want to share or they can't share. It's unlikely. Basically, an emergency management plan would be kind of what could go wrong, what are our things that we put in place to make sure we minimise the risk. So in that case, it'd be good to chat, but on the whole, it's really the schools are going to be putting the most risk management around getting to and from the pool and making sure that when they're in the change rooms, there are the risks there are minimised. So it'd really be good, as I said, just to talk for the facility and the school teachers to talk to each other to kind of check what there is in place, and the teachers would need to ask and make sure that the pools have an emergency management plan. But in terms of what the teachers might provide to the facilities, look, it might be stuff like this is how we want to supervise or how we prefer to supervise the change rooms or some of those other things. But when there's a bit of a merge and they get on the pool deck, for example, the schools really need to be led by the facility, because that's the facility is the one that has the risk there, and they need to be, making sure the schools behave well.
Perfect, thank you. When I think this one might be for you, Cal, when a school swimming and water safety program is run at a community facility that also doubles as a swim school, so a university pool, do the swim school instructors count in supervision ratio? So school teachers are not in the pool but are supervising from the pool deck.
So are we talking that as in like a lifeguard perspective as a supervision ratio? We can't, the school can't count the facility as part of their supervision ratio. So the university pool or community pool needs to have their own supervision plan to manage their own site, excluding the program. So they should be operating as what they would do for their own operations. Having that program come in, they just need to cater if they need to have more staff to be able to manage it, but they can't include the teacher being part of that supervision ratio. If that makes sense. So if I have 2 lifeguards on and my ratio is 1:80, I'm covering everyone there. I can't include the teacher as my second lifeguard in my own operations. I can't include them.
Perfect. Thanks, Cal. I think Jeff also touched on this in terms of the school teachers. So I believe the answer Jeff also gave was that in the instance that the students are in the pool with the instructor is in a supervisory role, but the school teachers have the overall supervisory of the entire group.
Yep, that's the way I read it. Yep.
Perfect.
I just want to jump in quickly as well about supervision plan for the facilities. If there's something that you haven't thought about, you need to make sure that this whole supervision is documented and laid out as well, because schools might actually ask, hey, can I have a look at your supervision plan as well? And so they can talk together. So if you don't have a supervision plan, something to go into the GSPO and start to have a real think about.
Perfect. Okay, moving back into a qualification question, which I can see Alec has also done some answering, but we'll go for a vocal answer. Is it mandatory to hold infant and disability qualifications to teach those classes, Kel?
Yes. That's a short answer. Yes. Yes. So you just need to, there is those additional 2 courses to get done, and that's to help you to know how to teach those lower level students. So yes, you do need to go and get that additional qualification to be able to teach those specific classes.
Perfect. Is there mandatory supervision for complex medical students, example epilepsy or complex behaviours, students that swim one-on-one outside of aquatic education or school swimming? Jeff, I might throw to you for that one.
Yeah, look, it's a really good question. Shelley, and I just got asked it last week, so isn't that handy? So the answer is no, there's nothing specific, and it's more to do with the teachers working through individually with each student, their families, any support staff that they work with. And so there's nothing specifically in the guidelines or the excursion guidelines even that says there is a particular supervision, that what they have to do. So it really comes down to individuals, and I would hope that the teachers would talk through this with you or think about this as they're planning, because that would come up in their medical information.
Perfect. Okay. Going back to qualifications. Jackie has asked, in council facilities with supervisors, lifeguard managers and everyone required to hold their first aid, is there scope for the PAL to recognise this scenario as compliant?
Yeah, Jackie, good question. The short answer is not at the moment, but like in working through all of this, when Bree and Callum and I were talking about it, it's certainly something that comes up a lot. And it's something that we'll be working with the school operations group who own the policy to talk with them over the next little bit. When I say the next little bit, it's government. Next little bit means 1 or 2 years, like it could be a while. So at the moment, the policy is what we have, and we need to follow that. But we understand that sometimes policies need looking at and review, and this is really good feedback. So we'll keep looking at that. But at the moment, the policy is there, and that's what we need to follow.
That's perfect. Okay. What are the guidelines? Jeff, I'm going to keep this one with you. What are the guidelines now supervising students in the bathroom in regards to privacy age? Our school teachers often ask our facility, what age should teachers no longer go into the bathrooms while students are changing?
Yeah, good. Another good question. There aren't any specific guidelines for that as they stand, from our perspective anyway. If a teacher asked me that, I'd be saying, look, you need to work that out because you know your students. The other place I would go is the guidelines for the child safe guidelines from the CCYP, and I'm going to forget what that acronym is, but it's basically the standards for being child safe, and they would be something that have some of those sort of some guidance into how that might work. So again, it comes back to the teachers and the schools to work that out themselves. So yeah, it's not a clear answer for you, apart from there isn't a clear answer, and the teachers need to think of it themselves.
Thank you, Jeff. Cal, can you clarify exactly what age an infant would be for qualification for the infant groups? I think in the chat, I think it's a bit of a debate between whether it's 3 or whether it's 4 years of age.
I believe it's 3, but I can drop it in the chat shortly once I have the confirmed numbers. If someone from the team can drop that in. There we go. Brenda has dropped that in, so yes, 3.
There you go. He's 3 years of age to warrant being an infant. Richard, to answer your questions, with these slides being available, the slides themselves won't be available, but we are recording, and the recorded webinar will be uploaded onto our LSV toolkit. So you'll be able to go back and rewatch this webinar at a later time to see all the slides and everything again.
And Bree, a quick plug on the toolkit. The toolkit is the place to go for lots of this stuff, even the links to the PAL guidelines and other resources. So if you're a facility and you're talking with teachers and they need some help with things, send them to the toolkit because it's got a whole lot of good resources there too.
And I think there's some good resourcing in helping schools liaise with pools as well in organising programs and everything like that.
That's
so
right.
It is a really good one-stop shop if you need information to be provided to schools or back the other way from schools to facilities.
Yep.
Okay. Scrolling through the chat. with special or additional needs or students with complex behaviours who require one-on-one. Some facilities suggest charging more for one-on-one. That's not exactly too much of a question, more a statement. I think around ratios, Cal, we're looking, I think, to talk about ratios with the special needs, students with disability. Is there any ratios in the GSPO regarding that?
I'll need to double check, but I think this would be a case by case situation. I know a lot of places offer one-to-one because it's easier to manage, but specifically, no, they can be included in all swimming lessons regardless. And that's down to the facilities if they want to do one-to-one. But in the GSPO, I don't think it says like you have to have one-to-one for these needs. We like to include everyone into swimming lessons as well. So yeah, it's a facility-based one.
Brenda, I assume that's asking you to come put your microphone and your camera on to talk that through, or do you want to talk that through later with your swim teacher PD question? Go for it. Can you do that? Will it let you turn your microphone on?
Yep. Am I there?
Yeah, got you.
Okay, sorry. It's just easier to ask the question than type it. And it's coming from being a trainer as well as a swim teacher. So for clarity for me delivering classes or courses, rather, with the quarterly trainings that swim teachers have to attend, if you have done a PD day, like for argument's sake, we did aquatactics, and that gave us 8 hours PD, can those 8 hours be, if I can use the word, deducted from the quarterly training sessions, if you add up all those hours, because we have to do 10 hours a year as swim teachers, can those 8 hours from that one seminar be taken off from doing quarterly training sessions? Do you know what I mean?
I think, do they count?
Yeah, I know they would count, but
yeah,
would it be taken off from the 10 hours that we are required to do, which is broken up over 4 training sessions across the year? But I don't know if I'm making sense. Yeah, I don't know if it's coming across well.
No, you are. I'm actually not 100% sure. Cal, do you have an answer on that one?
It is in the GSPOs, but
so essentially your question is, if you do external PD, does that count towards a session of the quarterly training instead?
Yes.
Yeah.
So in the GSPOs, it does say that we can do training outside of our facility in order for it to count. But so I'm just reading what Tony said. You're making sense, but it doesn't need to be across 4 separate sessions.
Yeah, just to jump in.
Okay,
yeah,
it does need to be across 4 separate sessions. Okay, so go, Callum.
It needs to be venue specific. So yeah, what Marcus said. So yes, 4 separate sessions.
Okay, so it's up to the venue if they want to accept an 8-hour PD as to cover off 1 4-hour session.
No.
It's saying, so essentially the PD is additional to your in-service. So you have to do your in-service, and the additional is just PD. They're separate things,
correct.
All right.
is what I believe Callum's saying.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that.
That's
it's
okay.
Too hard to write that.
No, you're fine.
Cool, thank you.
Does anyone else have any further questions? I think I have covered everything from the chat. I will leave it there if that's the case, and I will wind up. So I just wanted to say a huge thank you firstly to Jeff for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you and to share such knowledge across the board. And to Callum, thank you for saying yes to me when I came to you to ask you to present on this and bring all your information forward for me. So we would love any feedback that you can provide for us today. There's a QR code there. We will again send this out in an email, and it will be online, available on the toolkit. And then that is the contact details for the Aquatic Industry Services team. So Callum and Alec and I all sit in the Aquatic Industry Services team, and we have a big team behind us as well who can also jump in and help out if we need it. So any questions along the way that you might have, Jeff also will share his details, anything that might be coming off the PAL guidelines. But yeah, we thank you once again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you hopefully again soon, and hopefully at one of our in-person events that's coming up. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, folks.